In today's video, we're going to show you that the Scirocco can compete at this week's Daily Race C at Bathurst, and we get absolutely robbed by Gran Turismo on the final lap. So make sure you stick around to the end, watch both these races. We've got two races to show you. Let's get into this and delve straight into this week's Daily Race C. In the Scirocco, race 1 here, we're starting from P2. We've got VQS Lewis on our side there in P1. Technically, I think P1 should be on the other side because of at the start here. I think the grip is better on the outside. You get a better run. So it's awkward because you kind of want the inside line for P1, but when you look at it from this perspective, with how much better you can get on the throttle, you end up getting in the lead there. So yeah, technically, I would think that P1 should be on the right-hand side and P2 should be on the left. But we take the lead and we're up into P1. Now, Lewis is going to also race this race in the Scirocco. There you can see we're both in the Scirocco, starting at the front. And I actually set my fastest lap in the Scirocco. I haven't been back on to go on with the Mazda. I pretty much guarantee I could go a lot faster. But yeah, we managed to go a little bit quicker with the Scirocco even in time trial. And you can see here, Lewis is obviously working with us. And that is what you need to do with the slipstream at the moment. If you want to get away from the field and try and get a bit of a cleaner race towards the end. A lot of people are doing this tactic because of this exaggerated custom slipstream where you gain so much on the straights. If you work with people and then people start fighting, you end up pulling away. So that's what you see in a lot of combinations at the moment. You can see here, pushing quite hard through this middle sector. The Scirocco extremely strong through this section of track. This is where it seems to be really good, and it also has another party piece in terms of its tyre wear. You can actually see here, as we go onto the replay camera, there's a little bit of a gap developing between P3 and P4, and that's what happens when you pull away, you work together, you gradually build that gap up more, and once you lose a little bit of that 4-5 tenths gap, it just becomes weaker and weaker, the slipstream, and the cars in front of you will just pull away massively more. So again, as we're going onto the back straight here, you can see Lewis, he's not going to go for an overtake because he's going to play it smart and he's going to try and bump draft us and just try and get away from the other cars in this combination. So look at this as we see the replay camera. You can see there on the bottom right, you can see the little bump there and in the mirror, and then you can see the gap that's developed in that bottom right hand corner on that replay camera. You can really see it's started to get bigger. You can see it's probably at about a 1 second gap already, and once it's at that distance, you're just going to fly away from the pack. So pretty good situation right now. We've got 3 cars in this battle for the win, and we're pretty much only starting lap 2 there at the end of lap 1. Now we're going to skip ahead till lap 4, and you can see Lewis is still working with us, giving us that bump draft, and we're fully away from the pack. You can see on the top right on the track map, we've got a massive gap to the chasing group, and you can see there P3 is starting to fall away from that slipstream also. Now Lewis is going to go for a bit of a different strategy here. He's going to go for that earlier pit stop and try and get an undercut. Now, for me, that's pretty good because the Scirocco is really good on tyres compared to the Mazda anyway. So, although Lewis is in the Scirocco also, on lap 5, you can still do pretty decent laps. And you can see by the time we come to the end of the lap here, as we skip forward, we're currently on a pretty solid lap. And we're going to go into the pits on lap 5 and see where we come out in relation to Lewis. That's who the main person that we're fighting in this race is. And now the advantage of this is we're going to have slightly better tyre advantage as we get to the end of the race. Now try not to absolutely make a mess of the pit lane. I don't know anyone who's done that this week, honestly. And don't worry, if you did miss my absolute appalling pit lane entry, I will be trying to get that live as a YouTube short at some point. But yeah, we're going into the pits. We're going to change tyres this time. Now, I wasn't sure if Lewis was going for a no tyre change, and that's why he pitted early. Maybe he was going to go for a no tyre change and then get the jump on us and just try and get away like that. But we're going to change tyres here, take a risk on this strategy, into the pits, change of tyres, and then straight back out and see where we're going to come out. So as we come out the pits here, we see that we've got someone else in front who hasn't changed tyres, and you can see we've actually kept the lead to Lewis, and he is going to get into that slipstream, and it looks like he actually is going to be able to get the slip off us and go for the lead. Now, sometimes people won't go for the lead. They'll obviously just work with you there just to try and save you and then get you on the next part. But with him obviously having older tyres, I think he wanted to get himself into the lead so he doesn't have that little extra bit of slip through the corners, which can cause a bit of tyre wear. However, when you're following, you do have the ability to lift off the throttle earlier, and then it gives you the ability to not brake quite as aggressive, and that can help your tyre wear. So for me, it's not too bad to be in this position now. We've just got to hope that by the time we catch up to P1, he goes into the pits and we just get let free, because we've obviously got P3 not too far behind us. You can see it there on the replay camera. He's not too far in the distance. So just trying to stay with Lewis through there. Always looks amazing Bathurst, I think, when you have them slightly later time of days or early morning time of days. It really does look good on them replay cameras. And then we come to the top of this hill. Just try and be careful here. It's very easy to pick up a penalty on this downhill section. You have to try and get it close to the curb as possible, then chuck it in and just pray that you don't take too much off that white line. Luckily here we've not took any extra off there and we've not received the penalty. So still in that slipstream to Lewis, using the gears for rotation, then accelerating out in third. And that corner in particular was really good in this car. Now by the time we come to the end of that lap, you can see, luckily for us, the car that hasn't pitted dives off into the pits, and that frees us up to just keep on working together. And from this situation, we're not going to fight each other. I don't want to fight him. I want to just play this smart until later on in the race. And you can see here at lap 8, midway through lap 8, we're right up behind him still, and we've managed to get quite a big gap now to P3. So we've secured the top 2, and then this is going to give us the ability now to fight for the win. So you can see we're currently on a purple lap, on a pretty good run here, trying to chuck it into this left-hand corner, using a bit of the grass, and then just getting as close as we can to the walls on Bathurst on the mountain section. And now we're going to get that downshift to rotate it for this corner. Now we get quite a good run here. There is a possibility we can go for an overtake at this point of the track and take a risk. We know we've got 1 lap better tyres, so I was thinking, do I go for the move here or do I wait until the next lap? And I decided to go for the move here and get myself into P1 and take a bit of a risk, because I felt with better tyres, you never know, with a bit of slipstream that he's going to get through the corners, he might just understeer wide, clip the barrier and lose 3 or 4 attempts, and that will just give me enough to hang on to the lead. So we take a big risk now, putting ourselves up into P1 going into the final lap. So now it was going to be interesting. Would Lewis go for a move on the uphill straight, or would he work with us and try and get us on the downhill part of the track? So going through the final corner, just trying to get a good exit there in third gear. You can see Lewis is well within that slipstream, so he's going to be able to pick up a massive boost on the next straight. So it's going to be interesting. Is he going to bump, or is he going to go for that move and then try and stay ahead? Now I've got better tyres than him, so maybe not the wisest idea if he was going to go for a move here, because I've got the better tyres. I'm going to have a bit more grip, so I'll be able to stick right to him for the back straight. So you can see what he actually does here. He's going to bump draft us and work with us, and then he's going to hope that he can get us on the back straight. So again, by the time we come to the midpoint of the lap here, you can see we're at the top of the mountain. We're on actually pretty good lap at this point. I tried to push like crazy, but Lewis, very, very quick at this combo, just stuck to my rear, even though we went through that sector purple there, and we haven't got the slipstream. So we've put quite a good sector in at the top of the mountain, but now we're coming to the flat out long straight, and you can see there Lewis giving himself almost the perfect distance for the slipstream, and he's going to start picking up that slip down this straight here. We're going to try as much as we can. Nothing we can really do at this point. We just have to let him go, then tuck back into the slipstream. Now we go back behind him here. You can see pick up that slipstream and try and see if we can go for a move maybe into the braking zone, but you can see we're too far back, so we're going to have to just tuck him back behind him. Now we know we've got them better tyres, so we try and get a really good exit here, get it up into 4th gear early with the slipstream, and you can see we're starting to pick up that slipstream. Now Lewis is going to have to go defensive, and he's got slightly older tyres. We're going to send it round the outside, and we managed to get right round the outside here, use 2nd gear for rotation, up to 3rd gear, and somehow get a really good exit there. Absolutely nailed it. And you can see in the top left hand corner we've got ourselves into the lead with an actual gap there, and now we went over the line clearly in P1 there. However, Gran Turismo completely robs me, puts Lewis into P1. Now we checked the replay as well, and we clearly went over the line first. You can see it there, we're ahead by quite a margin, but unfortunately the lobby must have been desynced and it gave the win to Lewis. So a little bit frustrating, but these things happen. Now let's go again for another race. Now in this one we're starting from P5 there, and again we're in the Scirocco. Now this race, a lot of other people, very competitive lobby, a lot of other people in the Mazda, technically the meta car for this week, although I do think the Scirocco is in race condition perfectly equal to that Mazda. But at this point of the week, not everyone was aware of that, and you can see we're in the Scirocco and we're down to P6 here, obviously losing a position at the start there. So let's see what we can do, working our way up the hill here. You can see not much you can do in terms of power. You can see the Scirocco is actually a little bit weaker. You see there in front of us another Scirocco losing a position. Now we get a little bit of a hit from the Mazda behind, but we managed to hold the car on the track and keep that position in P6. Now Miura in front of us is a Gran Turismo World Tour driver, a very, very fast driver indeed. He manages to get himself back up to P4. I'm not sure if Lewis actually let him back through there, but then we get Gran Turismo's classical pinball physics there as Lewis hits Miura in the braking zone, pinballs into me, and then I think the car behind actually then taps me up the rear as well because of the pinball. But no harm done there. We're still in an okay position, but you can see we've actually lost quite a large margin there to P1. We're 1.7 seconds behind the leader. Now we're obviously going to claw some of that back on the back straight because he doesn't have slipstream, and all of us in this massive line of cars have got that slipstream, so we are going to gain a bit. However, miss the apex slightly there, which then loses me about 2 tenths. You can see it drops us a little bit further away from Lewis, and then into this last corner before the straight, didn't get it rotated, and you can see I actually drop out of this really important slipstream zone, and this is what I talk about with how strong the slipstream is. We're still in it, but if you're not within 4 tenths of it, you just lose massive amount of power, like straight line speed compared to the others. You can see, look how much they're pulling away, massive amount of gains, and you can see now the car behind us is going to give us a bump draft, which is a big help because we were starting to lose the slipstream, such as the strength of that. It's just all a little bit too unrealistic. I think PD needs to make some changes to that, or yeah, it's going to get a little bit daft in the future. So come on, PD, get this slipstream halved in power at least. Now, this choice now is one of the special tricks that the Scirocco can do. We're going to go for a pit on lap 1 and not change the tyres because the Scirocco's tyre wear is significantly better than the Mazda's. Now, the reason I did that was because we were basically losing the slip, and we were going to lose it because once you're at that distance, you're going to lose that power of it, and they would just pull away. So with this option here, it's risky because we're going to have no new tyres on our car, but you can see here, by the time we get up to lap 3, the end of lap 3, we've managed to get a little bit closer to Miura. Miura is very, very quick, exceptionally quick around this combo in the Scirocco, and we've started to get a little bit closer, and now we can use that slipstream to gradually push our way forward. And lap time wise, we're not doing too bad. We were actually slightly gaining on the leader at this point of the race, so it was working quite well, and the fact that we haven't changed tyres was going to give us about a 2-second advantage in the pit stop. Now, obviously, we were already about 1.7 seconds behind the leader, so no matter what happens here, with them all in a long line of cars slipstreaming, we were going to come out the pits very, very close to them, and it was going to cause, obviously, a very hard end to this race, but it's going to make it very entertaining trying to survive with the worn medium tyres versus fresh tyres. Now, you can see by the time we get to the end of lap 4, we're going to give Miura a bump draft because this is what we need to do. If we start fighting in this situation, it's going to totally ruin this strategy, and it's not going to work out. So when you're on this strategy with another driver, the best thing you can do is work with them, bump draft them, and then just try and help each other out in terms of pace. You can see I'm making it clear to him, I don't want to overtake, I want to work with him and try and get these people that are going in the pits early. So you can see the first group of people are into the pit stops, and we should get the jump over them because we obviously pitted from P6, so we should have the jump over them drivers. And as we come through the first corner here, you can see we have managed to jump them, and we're clearly ahead of them, so they're not going to be a factor in terms of us for this part of the race. However, the next group of drivers, when they go for the pits after we give Miura another little bump on the straight there, try and boost his speed on this uphill section, this is the significant part. So as you can see, as we go to start lap 5 now, you can see, sorry, lap 6, end of lap 5, we're going to have the main group of people that have gone in the pits, and you can see as they come out the pits, they're all in a line there, and you can see the strategy has worked, but we're going to be in a very difficult position here because you can see as we go to get the slipstream, the Mazda in front of us goes across us there, which is kind of frustrating, but then he goes for the move on Miura to try and go past him on the outside. This is probably never going to work, so he goes for that move around the outside, and that just opens the door up for me on the inside. We take that nicely, even with the worn tyres we're able to take the grip there, and then Miura is going to give me the slipstream because it worked better for Miura to give the car that's on the same strategy as him the slip, because he wants me behind him and not one of them on fresh tyres. So that actually puts us up into P4, but you can see how close this is now. This is going to be quite an entertaining finish to the race because we've got myself and Miura on very old tyres, and we've got a lot of fast drivers behind us on fresh medium tyres, and they're in what is technically the meta car, the Mazda. On fresh tyres, I do think it is the meta, but on worn tyres, I think the Scirocco is the better car, because at this stage here, you can see we still have plenty of grip at the top of this hill, and you can see even with the car behind us, the Mazda, as we come to this downhill section, we managed to actually really push through here, and you can see he actually slightly drops off, and he's got that 3-second penalty. It looks like he almost clipped the wall there, which is going to lose him even more time. And then as we come to the downhill section, he's going to take that 3-second penalty, and that's going to give us a bit of a gap to them cars behind us. Now this is where it's going to be extremely important to work with Miura. And you can see as we start lap 7, Lewis also and a few others have gone in the pits and come out, and we've been promoted to P2 in this race. So this is really interesting. If we can try and hold on, this is going to be very difficult. It's going to be very hard to hang on to this position with very, very fast drivers with completely fresh tyres. But we're going to give it our best go. And if there's a car to do it in this race, it's the Scirocco. On worn tyres, it still has potential to drive pretty well. Now, as we go through there, we ran a little bit wide, and Fusa's going to have a little look up the inside, but he decides to back out of that one. It's always a tricky corner to go for a move unless you're fully alongside. He decides to take the wiser choice there, back out and sit in our slipstream as we work with Miura to try and stay ahead. So through the mountain section, you can see here, this is where it's all about the grip on the tyres, and you can actually see that the Scirocco is really strong through here, because even with the older tyres, Fusa's not getting too close to us. Now we've got to try and keep him at bay here and try and work with Miura. So we're hoping Miura will drive as well as he can, and we can stick to that rear of that Scirocco in front of us, and we'll obviously try and bump draft him on the straight if possible. Now this was the section I had to absolutely nail, so I went 100% aggressive here with the worn tyres, and we actually built the gap up a little bit there, enough that we might be able to hold on to end this lap. So again, picking up the slipstream to Miura, and we're going to give him the bump draft on the straight. So fast forwarding the action on the straight and then giving him the bump draft there into the braking zone, and we're still able to hold on. So just 2 more laps to try and do this, but it's going to get increasingly hard as our tyres wear more, and their tyres are obviously getting up to temperature now, and their tyres are probably at that peak zone now of grip, and this is where it's going to get very, very hard. So again, we're going to try our hardest on lap 8 to defend it, and you can see here Fusa right behind us there. He's actually going to bump us here because there's no point in going through an overtake there into that corner, because it would just lose both of us time. So quite sensible Fusa there. Now he's going to pick up that slipstream, and you can see we actually got a really good exit with this car from turn 1, and it looks like it's good enough to give us the defensive line here. And you can see that what Miura's doing here, he's staying to the inside because he wants to give me the slipstream on that right hand side, so that I can't be overtaken. It's very clever driving by Miura in P1. He's making sure that I have the slipstream. I often do stuff like that as well. Give the car behind that's on the worst tyres the slipstream on the defensive line. That then helps them defend the corner and gives you a bit of protection. So again, on this straight now, as we come down on lap 8, we're going to give him the bump draft again. See, we've got a bit of a gap, but the cars behind are also bump drafting, and this is going to be incredibly difficult now, because in the braking zone, we're not going to have as much grip as them cars. Now, we give him a bump draft there, and you can see Fusa goes for the move down left, and I brake a little bit too late here and end up actually tapping into Miura. So my apologies to Miura, 100% my fault, and I was a little bit annoyed at myself for that one, and it's obviously lost Miura the lead of the race. Now I think he would have struggled anyway, but now he's under attack from these other cars. You can see we've got a car to our right, I think we've got Digit to our right, and we've got Lewis to the left, and unfortunately we've lost a position there to 2 more cars, so down to P5. But we're not going to give up this fight. We're going to try our hardest to get back a position, and you can see there, luckily for us, I noticed it at that point there that Digit had a penalty, so making sure that we give him space on the outside there. We don't want to run him wide, but he's got that penalty, and that's going to help us maybe if we can stay with him. So the aim now is to stay as close to Digit as possible, so that we don't end up still in the same position when he takes that penalty. So you can see he's going to go for a move on Miura. Not much Miura can do at this stage. Once you're at this final lap, the tyres on the Scirocco are pretty much giving up, but you can see he's going to try his best to stay with him in the slipstream, and by the time we get to the end of the lap towards the back straight here, Miura's done quite a good job at staying quite close to Digit there, considering the tyre advantage, and we've done a pretty good job at staying with Miura. Now Digit's going to take that penalty, and you can see that Miura's going to go past him, and we are just about going to have enough momentum with that slipstream to put ourselves up into P4, but we are going to have to get very creative to try and hold on to this position. You can see Digit had a little look up the inside there, but he's not going to be able to go for that move. Getting much better traction off them fresh tyres with that Mazda, and now we're going to have to go defensive into this final corner. We're going to have to hold that inside line. Digit's going to have to go around the outside. Now trying to get traction from a tight line is very difficult, but we use that second gear up to third gear and managed to get a really nice exit, and we're just about going to manage to hang on to P4. So bit of a crazy finish there, and Miura thankfully got himself back up to P2, so it was good that Miura got himself back up to P2. We managed to get to P4. Gaining positions with that strategy shows you just how strong this Scirocco was, especially in a tough lobby like that. We actually picked up 2 positions from the start on a technically slower strategy. So yeah, it was definitely worth giving this Scirocco a go this week. But hopefully you enjoyed that. Hit the like button if you did and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you for more videos in the future.